Yes, sir. We are back. We are back again. Sick Podcast Anvil Show. We'll be talking some Colts today. Like I said, we're the Colts, so the news cycle is never anything other than some funny trivial stuff. But we got a couple things to discuss, so we'll be getting to that. But in the meantime, get ready, get your snacks, get your drink, and Sammy, go ahead and bring us in.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. And Bill Show.
Over the intercepted! Marlon Jackson! Marlon's got it! We're going to the Super Bowl! We're going to the Super Bowl! Marlon Jackson with the interception! He picked off Tom Brady!
The sickest Indianapolis Colts podcast. It's gonna be sick.
Absolutely. Yes, it is absolutely going to be sick. And before we get into it, Sammy, go ahead and drop that anvil for us. Yes, sir. And that means we have officially gotten started. Welcome back to the Sick Podcast Anvil Show. I am your co-host, Chris, otherwise known as CJ, for anybody who follows me on Twitter. I'm going to call it Twitter. Mama called him Twitter. And I have with me, let people know who you are, even though they know who you are. But let people know who you are.
My name is Patrick, and I'm a football holic. I'm here tonight to release some demons until football starts.
Not quite sure what that means, but hopefully it doesn't end up half as bad as it sounded just now, because that was crazy. But and by the way, I was gonna say it did kind of sound like the beginning of like an AA meeting. I was gonna say that. I was like, oh, that's exactly what he's aiming for. So yeah, so that's
what I was aiming for. But I didn't get nobody to say hello, Patrick. So evidently, y'all ain't ever been no daggum meetings.
If you haven't, good. I mean, if you have, we're rooting for you. Either way, however that works. But yeah, so and by the way, I know they part of that sound that we have when we jump the show off is the Marlon Jackson interception, which is actually crazy because yesterday I believe was his birthday. So happy belated birthday to Marlon Jackson. Like I said, a notable Colt. He was absolutely part of that Super Bowl run that we had, and was I'm gonna say a Colts. I'm gonna say in the Colts stable for years. So once again, happy birthday to you, Marlon.
Still is. He still comes to lots of games. He still does signing opportunities with the Colts. Yeah, he still he still lives in town.
Yeah,
he still lives in Carmel.
That's the thing. A lot of and you see that with a lot of players. Like there's a good amount of players that they like stay in town. I think I believe Cato June's son, the one that he normally speaks about on Twitter. I think his son is, and I don't know what school he goes to, and I wouldn't put it out there like that. But I know his son is just like he's heavily involved in sports, but they're still in Indianapolis. And I remember the stories of him and Gary Brackett living right next to each other because they were best friends even during their playing days. So
yeah, Gary definitely still lives here.
Yeah. So I mean, so either way, like I said, it's just
his neighborhood. I've never been to his house, but
yeah, I've been to none. So, but I'll take your word for it because I believe you since you live there.
You know what, Chris? This is a good night just to take a bunch of questions.
True.
And properly take care of our chat. Outside of us having a billion things to speak on, we can't get to the chat very much. I know you got a couple things you want to bring up, but past that, man, let's go question and answer session.
Yeah, you know what? I'm going to say
James just brought up a damn good question. That was what made me think of it.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm going to say because of the fact, like I said, what I came up with is literally just like scheduled schematic stuff. We get to that anytime, but I 100% want to get to the people in the chat, people that are commenting, asking questions, because I definitely want to do that. So what we're going to do is the chat is open and we're going to answer questions. Like I said, we're going to take the questions as you ask them and we're going to answer them in real time. So the first question that we have, and Sammy, can you go ahead and bring up that first question from James, please?
How do you think our offensive line is going to do without Kelly and Fries? James, I'm going to tell you right now, they are going to do fabulous. Fries was out most of the season last season. I forget what game he went out, like third or fourth, something like that. I don't. If the chat knows, somebody can tell me. But we didn't miss a beat with him gone.
Mm-hmm.
Kelly has last 3, maybe 4 years has been hit or miss in his play because of a concussion, or because of an ankle, or because of a knee. You know, I get it. You're in the trenches. That's where everything happens. But we still need you on the field. So that makes me think, James, that we're going to be all right because the people that covered for those guys did a pretty damn good job. And what was his name? They drafted him last year.
Bortolini.
Bortolini, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Man, that kid's a stud. I fully anticipate him taking the starting center position.
Yeah.
I really do. And I don't think he didn't miss a beat last year as a rookie. And what was the guard's name? Gonclaves?
Gonsalves.
Gonsalves.
Yeah,
That's it.
yeah.
Man, did you see the excitement and fun he had coming off of the field?
Oh yeah.
Man, that kid's ready to play. I think our O line is going to be better, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, hopefully Braden has everything taken care of. No, outside sources messing with his head. I know he spoke a bunch last year about just having family issues, this and that. We don't know what those issues were. Hopefully everything's calmed down and squared away, and we can get him back to 100% mentally.
You said for who?
Braden Smith.
Oh yeah. They had the thing. So it was with him. He he was diagnosed with severe OCD. And so the problem was that it was something that he never did anything about. And so it got to the point where it's just like when he was home, like outside of practice or outside of games, he was basically like he looked like he was just empty. Like it got so bad that his wife said, "I'm calling, we're handling this right now." And so for him, he had to actually go and like be checked in, do like intense therapy, just do a lot of that stuff. So it was very, very serious with how it was, because honestly, if I'm being completely real, and I don't mean to take this to a really somber note, but just reading the article, if he didn't get help, we'd be having a much, much different conversation about Braden Smith, one that was a lot more grim. So like I said, when it came to that, that's the reason why, like, when you saw that they gave him kind of that 1-year extension, just letting him see exactly where he's at, because, like I said, if he chooses to continue to play and do what he, just continue to want to be on the team and want to play football, then I can see them possibly extending him. But I think they kind of gave him a 1-year deal to say, hey,
make sure he's back. And
yeah.
Well, and look, not to go all mushy on everybody tonight, but mental illness is a very serious matter.
Oh yeah.
I don't care how big you are. I don't care how strong you are. I don't care what type of warrior you are. When it gets in your head, you need help.
Yeah.
Look what that organization does with kicking the stigma, and look how vocal they are.
Mm-hmm.
And he still fell through the cracks because he didn't talk to nobody. He didn't let nobody know what was going on.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you right now, if you have mental issues, or even if you think you're starting to have mental issues, pick up the phone.
Mm-hmm.
Call somebody immediately. The faster you can get on this, the faster you can get away from it.
Yeah.
I can promise you this from experience.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
The military didn't just break my body; it jacked my head up pretty daggum good too. And back then when I got out of the military, you don't talk about weaknesses. You don't say or that you're vulnerable because of this or because of that. It's just not done. And in today's society, even in 2025, men still kind of think that way. that you're going to be perceived as weak if you speak on a mental issue. You're not.
Yep.
I'm telling you right now, it takes the strongest, most badass warriors to pick up that phone and ask for help.
Yeah. And I think you can't continue to just be at a point where you say, "Oh yeah, we'll tough it up, deal with it." And then God forbid something happens where, somebody decides to not be here anymore and they take matters into their own hands and they're just like, "Well, I don't know what happened. He looked like he was okay." It's just like we can't say tough it out and can't say, "Oh, well, he looked okay," on the same sentence. And it starts with that first thing not being a thing. So we can very much so just be like, listen, anybody, even if you're dealing with stuff right now, talk to somebody. And if you feel like you can't talk to anybody, there's lines that are designated to make sure that they talk to you, not just on some, "Oh yeah, well you're a light and you're this, that, and the other." No, making sure that you're really accounted for. So
Yeah,
yeah, we just want to
absolutely.
make sure anybody dealing with that we definitely do. But going back to the O-line thing, right? And I think that one of the most interesting aspects of that is I think this line is going to do wonders for Jonathan Taylor. And the reason, well, Jonathan Taylor in the run game. And the reason why I say that is just because that line that we had previously, I'm going to say, was maybe a little bit more pass centric. Ryan Kelly has always been a better pass blocker than he is a run blocker. And then Fries was just kind of, he started to kind of emerge in the passing game. Whereas now you see how this team is going to go. What's going on, y'all? And by the way, shout out to James, Teresa, Stacy, Zach, everybody already checking in. So back to this. So in terms of the run, like you already know that Quentin Nelson is a mauler. And I've been saying that nonstop. Quentin Nelson is a mauler. That's how he makes his bread and butter. And so I think he's going to end up like leading the charge so that that run game is going to be that much more potent. Because for me, Bortolini, he's strong, but he's also quick, and he's a lot quicker than Ryan Kelly was also. So I think what we're going to see is that this team is going to be set up better for the run, set up better more for the RPO game, and then also be able to do like some more of the read option depending on how that looks, and then still going to be good in the pass game. Because I think somebody, I don't know who it was, some yokel, rated us 21st O line for this year without even playing a snap yet, and I'm just like, I don't believe that. Like
I don't either.
they had us at 21. They had Tennessee ranked 19. So that's how you know that it's a slow news season. I'm like,
Yeah, very
there's
slow
there's
right
no
now.
way, there's no way. But yeah, but like I said, I think this line,
Although you did bring up some Colts news that, well, not Colts news per se, but news that could potentially affect the Colts.
yeah.
Spit that out.
Well,
That way, get chat time to get some more questions in there. We're getting a few in there.
yeah, and so I don't know if everybody saw, but Jalen Ramsey was traded to the Steelers. So it was Jaden Ramsey, Jonnu Smith, and I think a 7th round pick for Minka Fitzpatrick and a 5th round pick. And it's interesting because this team already defensively just was not great to begin with. And that, like, I'm going to say, taking Jalen Ramsey off. Now, mind you, Minka Fitzpatrick is by no means a slouch, but all they did was just replace Javon Holland, who they lost in free agency. So now you have Minka Fitzpatrick on a defense where there's really not much else. And then Tua loses his tight end from last year, who was a Pro Bowler. And so, as far as I'm concerned, the first thing that I thought about was, oh, so our odds for week 1 just went up. Because you lose a player on offense and you lose a player on defense. They already have a terrible O line.
Marquee players too.
Yes. Yeah. And Tua, he's Tua. I don't know. I don't know anymore with Tua. He is a perplexing individual. But as it stands right now, if I'm like with the way that I looked at that trade is Miami is they are either diabolical geniuses or they are just tanking. I don't know what they're doing because I don't get that, like, I get you have a high-powered offense, but you also have an O-line that just got worse because they lost to Ron Armstead, who was their best offensive lineman to retirement. And then you gave away your tight end. I like if I'm looking at that Miami game, if I'm looking at the money line for that Miami game, I'm putting extra money on. Now, I can't bet out here in Kansas City, but if I'm looking at that game looks way more appealing. It was even more appealing because I know that they're dedicating the game to Jim Irsay and everything. But if I'm looking at that game now, I'm not looking at that game with my eyes wide. I'm looking at it like, oh, what do we have here? Like I'm rubbing my hands like Birdman out here. Like I'm excited. I'm excited for this game. So I don't know, but how do you feel about it? Because for me, I saw that and I'm very excited about that prospect.
I personally don't care who has who on whose team, because if you want to be the best, you got to beat the best.
Oh, absolutely.
So with that mindset, whoever we go up against, we just got to beat them. Is it going to make it a little easier for us? Man, I wish somebody could put up stat comparison between Fitzpatrick and
Ramsey.
Thank you. You know what I mean? Because from my memory bank, which isn't the best because it is a memory loss drug, but they seem pretty comparable in my memory bank.
Yeah.
Would you say I'm pretty close to that?
So
being actual, Chris, or how am I far away on that thought process?
So here's where here's where I'm at with that, right? Because the thing is, if you're looking at the comparison for the two players, I can see how you would think that, because to me, Micah Fitzpatrick has generally been like a top 5, top 7 safety in the league. I want to say top 5 free safety in the league, right? Jalen Ramsey generally has been like top 5, top 10. He's a little bit older now. But the thing is, if I'm looking at what these two teams look like now, right? Because if you look at the Steelers, do they lose Micah Fitzpatrick? Absolutely. But then your secondary is now Jalen Ramsey, Darius Slay, and Joey Porter Jr. So you have 3 guys who can move in and out. And then also, you could potentially go and maybe put Ramsey or Slay in the free safety spot easily. Because there's a lot of times where it's just like sometimes in those coverages, you're going to see that they're not going to be playing just a regular zone. They're going to potentially be playing man, where they have that free safety playing man on possibly like a slot receiver or on a tight end, depending on what that looks like. But if I'm looking at the other side, yes, you got Minka Fitzpatrick because you finally replaced your safety spot. Mind you, they let Javon Holland walk, and I don't know if they put any draft capital into drafting a safety in this past draft. So yes, so they just drafted Minka Fitzpatrick. But then if you look at the Dolphins secondary right now, you can't name anybody in that Dolphins secondary, even though they just acquired Minka Fitzpatrick. So now you essentially have a void similar to what, I'm going to say what a secondary looks like if you just completely neglect it, which to a certain extent they have drafted corner. It just hasn't panned out. So to me, if I'm looking at it from a team perspective, I'm looking at it and I'm seeing, that Miami Dolphins defense now, and mind you, they've lost other players on defense as well. So that defense actually didn't really get any better. It's actually gotten worse since then. So, I mean, if I'm looking at that team, I'm like, you guys are not in a good position right now.
Well, if I'm looking at Pittsburgh, I'm looking at an old folks' home. Starting with their QB.
Yeah. But Steelers have an identity that isn't just that, I'm going to say, isn't just so QB dependent. I think it's just like, and mind you, I want to say that this Steelers team, they have an identity as far as their defense, as far as the run game. Quarterback play is, I mean, Justin Fields had them at 4-2. The year before, they had Kenny Pickett under center, and they still managed to. I think they still managed to make it to the wild card.
Mhm.
Like, it's crazy to say and it's crazy to think about, but when it comes down to it, it's like the Steelers generally their their play is normally going to be based on the quarterback. And while I don't think that Aaron Rodgers has the arm that he used to or anything like that, it doesn't change the fact that he's still an accurate quarterback and he's still going to be better than Kenny Pickett or whatever they've had in there in the last few years. So, I mean, that's the only reason why I just like I said, it's an old folks home, but they're used to that. The Steelers have always been an old folks home. Like, when have they ever actually been a young team or one of the younger teams in the league?
Good question.
Yeah,
but they never had this kind of turnover, though. I mean, Jerome Bennis, Palomalu, Big Ben. These were all stable names for many, many, many years.
Mm-hmm.
But now they're switching quarterbacks twice a year. I don't know. I need to do some more thoughts on Pittsburgh. If anybody's trying to tank, it almost seems like Pittsburgh is.
Nah,
Because
Pittsburgh.
this draft coming out, man, is really heavy on quarterbacks.
Yeah, there's gonna be about 6 quarterbacks coming up, and I think they're all gonna be maybe like round 1 caliber. So, yeah. But
right. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to get a sidetrack, boss. I was just
it's
where you're going. James has got another question. Sammy, can you get James's second question? Says one more.
Oh, and also Teresa had a question too, a little bit further up. It's actually two comments before that one. So
okay, we'll grab Teresa's right now.
Yeah, there you go. He said, "Bortolini going to be our center. How will he do?"
I think we covered that.
Yeah,
he's going to do better than Kelly.
I think so too, and I think Bortolini, the best thing that could have happened last year was him being able to play with the rest of the guys on that line, because he actually did have times where he was playing with Gonzalez and he was playing with I think he was also playing with Pinter at one point. So, I mean, these were guys that he was playing with throughout the season. And I think now it's just like him and Gonzalez kind of playing that side by side with him being at center and Gonzalez being at right guard. That's going to be, I'm going to say, a major development because, like I said, they already have chemistry. You just got to build on it. And also, shout out to Tony Sperano Jr. because he's been very underrated since he's been here. And that's our O-line coach that we have. So. All right.
Now let's go back to James and see what he says to say. One more. Another thing I'm worried about is our kicker position because Gay, I feel, did awesome, but unfortunately we cut him. I don't know how this new guy will favor. Well, James, from what I've seen from minicamp and OTAs, he didn't miss a shot.
Yeah.
That's all I can say because that's all I know. From what I've seen, he did not miss not one.
Well, we had him. He was on the roster before.
Yeah, he's the one last year that kept getting kicked off the roster and then right back on, kicked off. And, he made $18 million by getting kicked off the roster as many times as he did.
Well, listen, for $18 million, you can kick me as many times as you want.
Absolutely. Put me on the practice squad bench. I'll be all right with that.
Exactly. I'm just like, listen, just make sure that direct deposit hits. So that's fine. I'm good with that. But no, but like back. So the problem with Gay was that, and I think this was my issue with it, is that a lot of what he got, like the reason why he got paid, I don't think it was more. It was more so just because of the year that he had prior. Like he had a great year prior to us signing him. I think his numbers were like high 80s, low 90s in terms of his make percentage. But the problem is that once it came to games here, like he had those moments where it was up and down. Like I think the game that you can go to the most where he had his biggest ups was playing against Baltimore. And when he played against Baltimore, that's the one where I think he hit 5 field goals or he hit a bunch of them in a game where it was just like that was a battle. Like that was an absolute battle. But then we had games where it's just like he's missing from short.
Yeah, he shouldn't miss.
Yeah. And I mean, I think Schrader, we had him on the roster. He's been able to play. We know that he's been able to play. And I think it was a little bit more realistic to make sure that, I wouldn't have minded Gay or Schrader, but for how much Gay was getting paid, it didn't make sense.
Yeah.
It definitely didn't make sense. So I'm gonna say, don't be worried about the kicker position, because the kicker position honestly is gonna be something that I think we're good at. We're not just trying to pick guys up off the street, technically. Even though Schrader, we signed him off the street, but still, that's neither here nor there. But Schrader's not going to be a worry for us, so
A
I
walking
I wouldn't worry about that.
contradiction, you are.
Yeah, I listen. I try. I try. Yoda. All right, and then go to Treese's comment.
What's your opinion? There you go.
All right.
17, 21, 84, 91. We know 84 will be okay. Yeah, 84 is definitely going to be okay, especially, what we've seen in highlights from college, what we've seen from rookie camp, OTAs. Yeah, he's going to be all right. 17, that's Leonard, right?
Yep.
Quarterback. This is the one that surprised me, Teresa, because I said it on this program early back when OTAs were going, that he wasn't going to be anything but a great backup, because I didn't think he had the tangibles to be a franchise quarterback. I am now backing off of that statement from what I've seen so far. Leonard has real possibilities. When will he get to shine? I don't know. Will he ever get a chance to be on the field and shine? I don't know. But I'm definitely pulling back my statement that he will only be a decent backup. He's got real potential. He really does. After watching him a little closer, yeah, I kind of like where this kid's going. He's got pretty good wheels. His wheels aren't as good as Anthony's, but they're pretty decent. 21, 94, help me out, or 91.
I believe that's JTT.
On 91.
Yeah, JTT. Yep.
Yeah, JTT. He is going to be an absolute stud. Paired off the other side with Latu. Come on, you cannot guard that much talent on both sides of the ball, or on right side, left side of the line. It's going to be impossible. And then you got Big Grove and Buckner. Who you going to double between those four? Those four names right there. Who are you going to double?
Yeah, you can't. It's going to be tough to do it. And then not only that, but we know that Lou throws in different packages. Like, he's not somebody who's going to necessarily operate. Like, I know that they say like he's like a 4-3 guy, but he's not going to operate under a 4-3. It's going to be more of like a 4-1-6 or a 4-2-5 defense. Like, we're going to see him throw a lot of different looks out there.
I can see the 4-2-1 disguise.
Yeah.
That I can see coming a lot. Everybody's going to line up and they're going to call out their audibles, thinking, we're in a 4-2 set or something, and then shit's going to shift on you. You're done for. This defense is a monster in the making.
Absolutely. And that's the reason why I think, like, for me, if I'm looking at that, and I'll go ahead and get to 21, but 27, Justin Wally. I think he's
we definitely forgot about him.
He's going to definitely pay dividends in this defense, because he's a slot corner who's extremely physical, and this is a guy who said himself he modeled his game after Kenny. And if you've seen Kenny play, you know that Kenny, the way that he's able to affect the game, even for him playing outside of the slot, is very, very, very crucial. So, I mean, you have two guys who are going to be able to be out there. Like I said, when you see that they're going to have like those 4-2-5, you're going to maybe see a 4-1-6 look, something like that. you may actually see, like, in these types of sets, these nickel sets, dime sets, like when you see all these different types of sets that they're going to be throwing out there, we're going to see that, like, these guys in the secondary are going to have plenty of opportunities. And the way that he plays, he's not he's I'm going to say he's a guy who has quickness, but he's also very physical. And you will, and these guys are very excited to be able to be aggressive and press at the line of scrimmage, which we didn't see with Gus Bradley. So yeah, we're stay tuned. But yeah, and then Justin Giddens. What about you, Pat? What do you think about Justin Giddens or DJ Giddens? DJ Giddens, bro.
I was gonna say, man, he is a quiet dark horse that you better not sleep on.
Mm-hmm.
You better not sleep on this kid, and JT better not sleep on this kid either.
Oh no, definitely not.
JT can lose his job to this kid. That's how much talent this kid's got. Now, is he at JT's level? Absolutely not. He's a rookie, but he can get to that level real quick because he's that good.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's all I can say. So having that two-headed monster for a running back between JT and him, yeah, JT needs to come out for, a breather. We're not missing a beat. If he has to come out for a breather, we're not missing a beat.
Yep, absolutely. And that's and we have, like, this is possibly like the most competitive that I've even seen our running back room ever. Because sure, like, JT is that guy who's going to be there, but the thing is, JT has also had some struggles when it's come to injury. I think that if with the type of guys that you have in there, because mind you, you also have Khalil Herbert, and then it's kind of easy to forget, but he's not a forgettable guy. You forget that we still got Goodson too.
Mm-hmm.
So the thing is, you have 4 more than capable running backs. With I think you probably have Khalil Herbert can do some catching out the backfield, but DJ Giddens, his receiving ability is going to be very, very crucial. And I mean, honestly, like, the one thing that I've been saying is that the biggest indicator of AR's progress, assuming that he starts, the biggest indicator of AR's progress is going to be how he attacks the short and intermediate game. If he's able to go and just attack, being able to throw into the flats, being able to throw the quick slants, being able to throw underneath, if he can start throwing at a high volume, accurate passes in that short and intermediate game, it's like offensively, this is going to be a very, very, very tough team to play against, at least from a defensive perspective, because you also have to remember that AR, even though he wasn't able to go ahead, I'm going to say, throw those shorts, his pocket presence to me was something that was very, very underrated. Like, he was able to kind of step up. He was able to avoid the sack, and not just because he's just outwardly, like, just, stiff arming guys off, but it's basically because of the fact that he was able to move around the pocket, and if he needed to, he was able to get out of the pocket effectively. But now, if you go ahead and you attack that short game properly, we're gonna have to have a different conversation about AR if he's able to do that, and if he's able to stay healthy, because I think him being healthy is first and foremost the biggest concern, period, at least from my perspective.
It absolutely is. And you brought up JT's ability to stay healthy, and this is before your tenure here on the show, but I remember very vividly me and Clyde having pretty long discussion about how much JT was used at Wisconsin.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
First couple years here, how much he was used, and that the topic was, man, how much longer can this kid maintain? And then the following year, that's when, things just started
piling on,
breaking loose on him, and, injuries started piling up here, there. So getting Gibbons was a very, very brilliant move by Ballard, if you ask me.
Yeah. And you know what? I want to say it was having like so the thing that kind of drives me crazy, right, is that I see how this draft went and I see how this free agency went. And it kind of takes me back to the end of the year presser when, Chris Ballard, like everybody really held his butt to the fire. And so I'm looking at how he drafted when it came down to getting JTT, right? Somebody that people really didn't know, but I think he had that production to be able to say, okay, this guy can really, affect the passing game, get some pressure. Drafting DJ Giddens, where it's just like, okay, we got somebody who's actually going to look like a good complement to Jonathan Taylor. Just going out and getting a tight end and just doing all these individual things. Well, this is stuff that honestly could have been done prior. Like, this is stuff that could have been done for years at least.
Well, I'm not going to disagree with you, but something that come across my mind when you're speaking earlier about this team on paper. Go back to last year. What was we saying about this team last year? Like, man, on paper, we're looking good. On paper, nobody's going to run on our defense. And this is, we say on paper because this is what Ballard's built, not anything else. Now, the talent didn't formulate on the field like it's supposed to. Where do you put the blame on that? You can blame it on Chris. You can blame it on the coaches. You can blame it on the players. Because if you ask me, all of them had a hand in the BS that the fan base went through last year.
That's fair.
Chris should have jumped in the coach's ass. The coaches should have jumped in the player's ass. La-di-da-di-da, got the shit back right. But nobody jumped in anybody's ass, that it seemed like, except for player on player, which is a good thing because that's solid leadership in our locker room. You definitely want that on a team. But you still need those coaches holding people accountable, and you still need that GM holding the coaches and everybody else beneath them accountable. And this is one of the reasons I don't destroy Ballard like a lot of people do. Yes, you're right. We don't have the record to showcase that he should get another year at the helm. We don't have that record. But if you look at what he's done, the talent's there. The man knows how to draft. The man knows how to bring talent into the facility. Now, getting that talent out of those players on Sunday afternoon or Sunday night, that's a different story.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm gonna say it's just because, like I said, Ed, and I will say because last season we did have these discussions where we're just like there was a bunch of spots, but remember last year was a run it back, and we knew it was a run it back here because Chris Ballard said, yeah, we're basically just gonna run it back, and so the two areas that we did talk about,
like our guys,
yeah, we like our guys, we like what we have, yeah. So but the biggest things that we talked about were the cornerback room and the tight end room. And those were the things that we discussed last season because, we knew what it was. But the thing now is that, you have like last season, you had JT, you had Trey Sermon, and you had Goodson, right? Well, Trey Sermon, he was a scat back in a power back spotty, and he didn't realize it until it was too late. So he's gone. But now you go out, you get a Khalil Herbert, and then you go and then you draft the Giddens. And now you have four guys with three of whom are competing to see exactly which one's going to go in where. Because Goodson saw somebody get signed, somebody be drafted, and he's like, oh, wow, I got to contend with these three. Like, they're not gunning for JT spot. They're gunning for whoever is going to be the
spot.
one. They're gunning for whoever's going to stay on because once it hits that 53, and mind you, we know that when it comes to tight ends, we know that unless it's something crazy foreseen, Jelani Woods ain't going nowhere because I think they're still waiting for him to emerge. Like, you still have a tight end room that has 5 tight ends in it right now that you can think of. Like you have Mo Alley Cox, you have Jelani Woods, Will Mallory, Drew Ogletree, and Tyler Warren. Tyler Warren ain't going anywhere. And there's 3 guys right now because Will Mallory, he's still on our. I think he got 1 more year until he's up for a contract. But you got 3 guys who are competing for a contract this season.
Yep. Mo, Woods, and Ogletree.
Yep, exactly. And
Yep.
and I mean honestly, and at the end of the day, I know they're cool. That's their room. But I know at the end of the day, they're looking at each other like, well, looks like you're going to be out of here at the end of the year. Like like that's just the way that goes. But I mean, if we're looking like the way that Chris Ballard moved in regards to this free agency or this offseason as a whole, he moved with much more of a sense of urgency and much more of a sense of competition. And that's just not competition within the different position groups. That's just competition in the team itself. Because I mean, honestly, it's just like I think this is possibly one of the better rosters that we've had in a very long time. And so, I don't know who the QB is going to be. I don't. But I know that whoever steps in, you have a great team at your disposal. And I mean, like, I just don't foresee there being any issues with somebody doing like. I'm just gonna say I just like what Chris Ballard did. I just feel like he had this in him all along. He just really was just kind of dragging his feet on a lot of this stuff, being a little bit too bullish, as he says. So, well, that's just my opinion. And then Teresa says, "How does Giddens do as a running back number 2?"
I think he's going to show out, Teresa. I really do.
Giddens is going to be Giddens. I think one of the reasons why they went after him was he's a good change of pace back. Like he's a strong back that actually has some speed to him, but I think it's more so for his receiving ability because he's a good receiver out of the backfield. Even when he played in college, a lot of his usage was in the receiving game more so than the run game, even though he actually can run pretty well. Like if I can compare him to anybody, I think he's very similar to a Naeem Hines, just not as I'm going to say not as shifty, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. He's a lot bigger than Naheem too.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I think Giddens is well, Naeem was also like 5'7". He was about like 5'7", but the fact that he was as fast as he was also a big help. So that's what that was. So, yeah, so I think Giddens is going to get his chance to fare, but also I think Khalil Herbert is going to be making sure that he, stakes his claim also because he's been somebody who's been a starter. And the one thing about running backs is that if you can't catch on after you leave that original team, and this is like when you're younger in your career, that lifespan is going to get a lot shorter, a lot quicker too. I mean, even now, it's just like I saw something today about the Chargers potentially trading away Najee Harris when they just signed him this like a few months ago.
Yeah, I saw that.
So I'm gonna say I don't believe I like with running backs, like you got to be able to just do what you have to do quickly. So yeah, I think Giddens is going to be somebody who's going to be great. And then Judd Van Cleve, Judd, what's going on? He says, I came in late, but I have seen reports of Richardson possibly getting another surgery. Do we give him another chance after surgery or possibly draft another kid next year? Richardson's not getting any more surgeries.
Yeah, I haven't heard any.
Yeah.
Judd, if you can put the link to whatever article you read that to in the chat, that'd be appreciated by everybody because, yeah, I haven't seen anything like that.
Yeah, and I haven't either because Anthony Richardson has already said his arm is fine. He'll be 100% for training camp, which, by the way, countdown. I think first training camp session is going to be 3 weeks from tomorrow.
4.
Yep. So yeah. So like I said, we're gonna Yeah, and if you got a chance, or if you see us out there, say hello, because we definitely will be out there, myself included. Maybe not as much as Pat, or one of our other or one of our other podcast guys, but either way, you know what it is. We'll definitely be out there, and we'll be announcing that too. So, yeah.
Well, I'll tell you that my camp days are going to be limited this year.
All right. Well, hey,
So
I'll just be there that much more.
yeah, it's a good story, but it's sad because it's training camp. But we bought our building to move our shop, so we're in the process of moving shops and locations right now.
Oh,
So
where you gonna be at?
Beach Grove,
Where the heck is that? Or how far is that away from where the shop is now?
20 minutes.
Oh, okay. Oh,
But we actually bought the building, so no more rent.
nice. And that's even better. Like that.
Yeah, absolutely. So to me, it's worth the headaches of the move.
Yeah.
But the bad thing is, not this week, but next week, I think we're going to start moving stuff around, and don't know if we're going to get everything done by
Gotcha.
August. So if I'm not out there much, it's because of that.
Well, if he's not out there, I'll be out there. So we'll be able to do it. So that'll all be announced a little bit closer to the time anyway. So yeah, but like I said, but in AR news, AR is at 100%. He says he's fine. He literally was just doing his camp in Gainesville, Florida yesterday. So yeah, so he's fine. He's fine as far as we can tell. There has been no other news other than the fact that he's going to be at training camp. So yeah. So like I said, don't worry. Like I said, don't fall for the clickbait. Sometimes people just want you to click on stuff so they can get some views. Listen, just go ahead and ask us. You can ask us at Sick Pod Colts on Twitter. Ask us at Sick Podcast Anvil Show on Facebook. All that good stuff. If you have questions, we'll answer them. So yes. All right, and then
Yeah, we'll definitely give you our honest take on it, without a doubt. We don't do clickbaity stuff. We don't make up stories so people pay attention to us. You get the raw deal here.
Yep. And then Stacy says, "Do you think this season will be Yanilty?" I'm not sure what that means. Stacy, can you go ahead and just put what you mean in the chat, because I think you might have just misspelled something, but I can't understand it, so just want to make sure. But then and then Kent Jones, his comment, he says, "I don't understand why everyone is getting on Chris about this. It comes down to QB and what could he have done? AR was the only opportunity for that. All behind him are pretty much out of football." I think, I don't know, because what the issue that we've had when it's come down to QB, it's just like, yes, it does come down to QB, but I think and I can speak for different people, because this is different things that I hear. Like I said, Pat may not feel the same way, but this is just going according to what people have said. The things that have been expressed is that he decided that he wasn't going to make the moves when it came down to signing somebody, or I'm going to say going all in and drafting somebody early on, right? And so it was kind of like the comments. It was just the waiting, like having Phillip Rivers and Jacoby Brissett both making 20 plus million when Jacoby Brissett was a backup. It's like people looked at that and they were just like, okay, it left a bad taste in your mouth.
Yeah.
But
And they were probably still playing luck at the time too.
Yeah.
So there's almost $70 million on three quarterbacks.
Yeah.
That's rough for any organization to overcome. But you're not wrong, Kent. Ballard's always said from the beginning that he wouldn't overreach for a quarterback. So evidently what they saw in Anthony was some real tangible stuff that they thought they could help shine.
Yeah.
And the experiment's not over.
Yeah.
It's not over by far. Look around the league. Steelers brought in Justin Fields. First thing Kenny Pickett did was ask for a trade. Got out of there. This happens a lot. What did Anthony do? He went and worked out. He went and got better. That's the kind of character you want in a quarterback. Not somebody that's going to run, but that somebody's going to stand and get better. So I hold my hat to that, and it just is pure talent. I mean, the kid is something else. Just this year, he's got to put it all together for me.
Yeah. And I think, and to kind of double down on that, I think knowing how raw Anthony Richardson was, like normally when you get somebody out of college, they would have had possibly like 3 years starting experience. They've had like a significant amount of playing time at the position to justify just going and just being drafted that high. AR didn't have that. But the thing is, we knew that he had the ability to be able to do all the things that you would expect for a quarterback to do, like the intangibles that Pat just spoke on. But for me, and this is just me, I can only speak for me. If you draft somebody like that, knowing that they have this immense potential, knowing that you have all this upside, but understanding that you have somebody who is very, very green, like green to the point where it's not going to be ripe for at least 2 to 3 weeks. But in this case, in a quarterback, I would have had no problem letting him sit, learn, like really work on the mechanics, work on all that stuff ahead of time, work on making sure that he's keeping himself safe, how to protect his body, how to truly take care of his body. That means to me, you absolutely have put in the time needed in order to make sure that these guys are developing, because it's not outside the realm of possibility that guys are taking round one and then they sit. I think one of the greatest things that you can do for a quarterback, especially if you're not sure, is not just throw him into the fire and say, well, we'll see what happens. And especially in this day and age, they want to put everybody out there immediately. And I think at the quarterback position, with it being so integral, you need to know that your quarterback is going to be ready, especially going out there, because I mean, to me, I believe that if you give AR at least a year, just kind of sitting out, just digesting, absorbing the playbook, making sure that he's working on those mechanics, working on all the things that he worked on this season, before the start of this third season, you give him the chance to do that in year one. Year two looks completely different.
Completely different. Yeah. So watch this year look different.
Yeah.
Try not to get on the hate train just yet. It's easy. That's the easiest thing for any fan to do, is to get on the hate train, because it hasn't worked out exactly the way you wanted it to. You got to give these guys time to develop. Even your top players coming out of college have to develop. Look at Peyton Manning. It took him, 2.5 years to really get command of that offense before we really started winning. And that's Peyton Manning. It took him some time too. It takes everybody time to make adjustments. Some not as long, some even longer. But once they get the adjustments down and that talent gets to be showcased, my goodness, it's some fun football to watch.
Absolutely. And and like I said, that's the reason why. And once again, I do want to go ahead and just make sure that we say that the Manning family generally stays in all 4 years. So anybody who was hoping for Arch for next season, he probably isn't coming out until 2027. So let's just dash that right now, because I want to make sure that we put that out there.
Yeah, and with the NIL money that these kids in college are getting now, there's no rush for these kids to come out early.
He's going to be the highest paid in terms of college athletes in college football this season coming up. So I don't think there's any rush for him to get out anytime soon. So,
and I guarantee you, if you have a coach and some other mentors around any of these quarterbacks in college, they're using Anthony as an example of why not to come out early and the difficulties that he's had and with the limited amount of college games that he played.
Yeah.
So they're probably using Anthony's path to steer these guys now.
Yep, absolutely.
So I would be real surprised if Arch comes out next year. Real surprised.
Yep. And by the way, shout out to Kent, Meanie, Blue Meanie in here from Blue Crew, and then also dropping articles as well. We got Chris, what's going on? Then we got Luis, and then we actually got a so we got some clarification. So it's just like, so Stacy said, her original question was, just going up, or I'm actually trying to see which one. It's like, do you think this season will be unity? I think there's going to absolutely be unity, and so I don't hate to use this excuse, but I also want to, sometimes the best thing that can happen to teams is having to unite through tragedy, because the problem is that I don't think anybody is going to go into the season under new ownership with everything that's happened with Jim Irsay and go into it with the type of turmoil and type of things that we had going on. Because even though it wasn't anything that was like earth-shattering turmoil, it literally was turmoil because it was we ended up being 8-9 amidst all the stuff that we had going on last season. So I mean, honestly, I think we'll be unified. I mean, that
I think so too. I really, really do. And I think the players left were taken serious when they voiced their opinions about what was happening last year. So they're even more on board because their voice was taken serious. Everybody saw the collapse of what happened and why it happened. They're not going to let that happen again, because if it collapses again, the uppers are losing jobs.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
They're not in the business to lose their job. They're in the business to do well and well enough to get another contract, a higher contract.
Yeah.
So they're not going to let it happen again. I do believe that.
Yeah.
Hey, Jimmy, pull up Teresa's comment. She says there's a problem somewhere. Do you think it could be a bit of one in our locker room? Now, Teresa, when I read that, I had to ask myself, are you talking about right now or last year? Because if it was last year, absolutely it was a locker room issue. And it wasn't addressed properly until the players got pissed off and got involved.
Yeah.
Then it got addressed. Yeah. But if there's a problem swirling around right now, it's news that I haven't gotten.
Yeah, and I don't think there's anything going on now. Like last season, definitely locker room issue, because I mean, there was a lot of players, like there was a lot of things that were discussed, and I mean, it was a multitude of things, but I think more so than anything else, it's just everybody wasn't on the same page, because in order for a team to be successful, every got to be on the same page no matter what. I don't care how much the QB's making. I don't care how good the wide receivers are. I don't care how good the defense is. Everybody has to be on the same page when it comes down to a team being successful. So, that's going to be something that's going to be, I think that's what we're going to see, but I don't think that's going to be a big thing. So, but we have a couple more comments before we get out of here. We got a couple of minutes. Go to Luis's comment or Luis's question. He says, if we end up having an unfortunate season, we will keep AR and still draft a rookie QB, or will we keep AR and still draft a rookie QB this upcoming draft? What say you, Pat?
No, I don't see him holding on to AR. If that's the way the season goes, I see them trying to get some draft capital out of him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I really do, and I hate saying it because I love the kid. I'm really hoping to be able to ride his coattails to a Super Bowl.
Yeah,
and to lift to Lombardi. But if there's another unfortunate season like we did last year, I don't see them keeping him. But they're not just going to let him walk. They'll definitely get some draft capital out of him, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm the same. I think that we're going to see that they're going to, if for some reason it's unsuccessful, you absolutely have to go and draft a QB because you only have one more year after this year, and trying to put stake on him having it all together in year 4 is playing a dangerous game, especially when you know for a fact that if this season ends up being another season under 500, yeah, you're not gonna it's gonna be a foregone conclusion that you got to ship him out. So definitely going to be in that case. And then Kent, he says, or he just agreed in that case. So then they said, I said, I live in Florida. I'm coming to Indiana in a couple weeks. Try to make a camp day while there. Hey, listen, guys.
Perfect.
If you see us out there, just come and say what's up. Like I said, I understand you're watching us, you're seeing us on the screen, but we're regular people. All right. We're people who love the game. We love what we do. We talk about what we love, and
I'm regular, but Chris, he's like a star out there on that field. Everybody wants his autograph. He shuns them all. That's what he does. Nope, no autographs today.
No. See, I see what you did there.
If you get Chris's autograph, you're doing real well.
No. Please, no. Listen, I'm with the tax bracket that I'm in for my autograph. With the tax bracket I'm in, if I'm giving out autographs, I'm not doing it right. Okay.
Hey, Sammy, bring up Eric Griffin's comment about 2002, 10-6. I have been validated, boys, by the meanie.
Hey, that's fine. And like I said, year 3, I'm hoping for a good year 3. I'm hoping for a healthy year 3. So I think that's what we're looking for. And then Teresa said, could it carry over to this year? I think I think we'll be successful. I think we have the makings to be successful. If Anthony stays healthy, I think he's going to show that he actually did improve. And so with that being said, we are going to get out of here. Meanie says Chris is not regular. Pretty sure he is an alien. Probably that's why kids and animals love me the way that they do, because they don't know any better. So with that being said, Pat, tell the people where they can find you on social media.
You can find me on X at Big P Colts. And Teresa, I will message you with the name of the new shop and the location.
Absolutely. And you can
find me for your support there.
And you can find me on Twitter at CJ Colts Fan. And please pull up the Sick Podcast page. And you can find us on Twitter at Sick Pod Colts.
Guess where else they can find us, Chris?
Oh, on z103.com.
Boom, boom.
Yep, you'll be able to find us. We are pre-recorded Wednesdays, 12 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 11 a.m. Central. And you can also find us on Mix 105. I believe they're in the works of developing their own stuff so that they can also go ahead and post it. And you can find us all the way in the UK. Find us all the way in the UK. And Pat, please don't let me down like you did last week. Please.
I'm going to, because I did not do my homework. Didn't even think about it until this second.
Yes,
when you brought up Wells, I was like, shit.
Well, yes. Well, the thing is, you can also find us when our UK affiliates, where we'll actually be streaming out there. Mind you, it's a 5-hour time difference from Eastern. So, for example, if they go live at 5 p.m. or if they do the show at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time over there, that is 12 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then 11 a.m. Central Standard Time here. So just want to make sure. And then also make sure that you are going to visit Indy. You could be able to scan the QR code. When you scan that code, you can go to all the Visit Indy, be able to see all the attractions, events that are coming up, things that are happening in the Indianapolis area. Yep.
Cabs, airline information. You name it. You come to this town, these guys got you covered.
Yep, and Kent, you said you're coming in for a couple weeks, coming from Florida. So I suggest scanning that barcode using the Visit Indy app, and yeah, that's gonna be how you do it. But we're gonna get out of here. We love you guys. We'll see you next week, next Tuesday. Happy 4th of July, and all those great things that come along with it. And with that being said, Sammy, take us out.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast and Bill Show on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.